Standing in the elegant ballroom of the Riverside Country Club, surrounded by my family and my brother's graduating class from Harvard Medical School, I watched my father raise his champagne glass and declare to the assembled crowd, "Here's to my son David, who has made our family proud, unlike some people." His eyes found mine across the room as he continued. At least one of my children turned out to be something other than a disappointment. What happened next would change our family dynamics forever, because 20 minutes later, Dean Morrison took the microphone and announced that the evening's celebration was made possible by a generous anonymous donor who had just revealed her identity, and that donor was me. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. I am Elena Rodriguez, 34 years old, and this is the story of how I went from being my father's greatest disappointment to discovering that success cannot be measured by someone else's definition of achievement. Growing up as the eldest child in the Rodriguez family meant living under the weight of expectations that felt both suffocating and impossible to fulfill. Our home in Westfield, Connecticut, represented the American dream realized through my father's journey from immigrant construction worker to successful orthopedic surgeon. Dr. Miguel Rodriguez had built his reputation through decades of dedication, working 20-hour days during his residency while supporting our family and never allowing anyone to forget the sacrifices required for our comfortable suburban lifestyle. The Rodriguez family narrative had been written long before I understood my role within it. My father emigrated from Guatemala at 19 with nothing but medical school transcripts and determination. My mother, Carmen, arrived from El Salvador 2 years later, carrying teaching credentials and dreams of educating American children. Together, they created a household where academic excellence was not just encouraged, but demanded, where anything less than perfection represented ingratitude for the opportunities they had fought to provide. David, my younger brother by 3 years, emerged as the golden child from the moment he could speak in complete sentences. His early fascination with anatomy books, his natural aptitude for mathematics and science, and his genuine interest in our father's medical journals made him the obvious heir to our family's medical legacy. By age 10, David could discuss surgical procedures with sophistication that impressed our father's colleagues at dinner parties, earning praise and recognition that reinforced his position as the family's greatest achievement. My own interests developed along entirely different lines, creating the first fractures in my relationship with parental expectations. While David studied biology textbooks, I consumed literature and philosophy. While he shadowed our father at the hospital during summer breaks, I volunteered at local museums and art galleries. My academic performance remained exemplary, consistently earning placement on honor rolls and dean's lists, yet these achievements felt diminished when compared to David's clear trajectory toward medical school. The first major confrontation occurred during my sophomore year of high school, when I announced my intention to pursue art history and museum studies rather than pre-medical coursework. The conversation took place in our formal dining room, with David present as a silent witness to what would become a defining moment in our family dynamic. "Art history?" my father repeated, his voice carrying the same tone he typically reserved for discussing terminal diagnoses with patients. "Elena, you are throwing away every opportunity we have worked to provide. Art history is a hobby, not a career. You cannot support a family or contribute meaningfully to society by looking at paintings." My mother attempted diplomatic intervention, suggesting that I could pursue art as a minor while completing pre-medical requirements. But my father's disappointment had already crystallized into something harder and more permanent. In his mind, my rejection of medicine represented not just poor career planning, but fundamental ingratitude for the sacrifices he had made to provide educational opportunities. The conflict intensified during my college selection process. Despite acceptance to prestigious universities for art history programs, my father refused to discuss any institution that did not offer strong pre-medical tracks. Our compromise involved attending Northwestern University, where I could pursue art history, while theoretically maintaining the option to switch to pre-medical studies. Northwestern proved to be transformative in ways that neither my parents nor I anticipated. The art history department introduced me to museum professionals who spoke passionately about preservation, education, and cultural stewardship. Internships at the Art Institute of Chicago revealed career possibilities that combined scholarly research with public service, allowing me to envision a professional life that would be both meaningful and financially sustainable. My professor, Dr. Sarah Chen, became the first adult authority figure to validate my academic interests without qualification or apology. During a conversation in her office overlooking the campus sculpture garden, she articulated something I had never heard from my family. "Elena, your analytical abilities and passion for cultural preservation could contribute enormously to making art accessible to broader audiences," Dr. Chen told me as we reviewed my thesis proposal on pre-Columbian artifacts. "Museums need people who can bridge academic scholarship with public engagement. Your bilingual abilities and cultural background provide perspectives that major institutions desperately need." The validation felt revolutionary. For the first time, an adult with professional credibility suggested that my interests were not just acceptable, but valuable. Dr. Chen introduced me to museum directors, curators, and development professionals who described career paths that would allow me to support myself while contributing to cultural education and preservation. Meanwhile, David's progression through pre-medical coursework at Yale continued to generate family pride and social recognition. Holiday gatherings featured detailed discussions of his organic chemistry achievements and MCAT preparation, while my academic successes in art history were acknowledged with polite interest before conversations returned to David's medical school prospects. The dynamic became particularly painful during family social events, where my parents introduced David as our future doctor, while describing me simply as our daughter Elena, who studies art. The subtle but consistent diminishment created a sense of invisibility that intensified my determination to prove that my chosen field could generate both personal satisfaction and professional success. Graduate school applications represented another battleground. Despite acceptance to prestigious museum studies programs at both Columbia and Yale, my father expressed disappointment that I was wasting more years on impractical education instead of pursuing real graduate school in medicine or law. The financial support he provided came with constant reminders about the opportunity cost of my choices and regular suggestions that it was not too late to change direction. Columbia's Museum Studies program exceeded every expectation I had harbored about graduate education. The curriculum combined rigorous academic research with practical experience in museum operations, development, and educational programming. Internships at the Metropolitan Museum and the Museum of Natural History provided exposure to the business aspects of cultural institutions, revealing career possibilities that extended far beyond curatorial work. My thesis project focused on developing educational programs that made pre-Columbian art accessible to Latino communities who rarely visited traditional museums. The research required extensive community engagement, interviewing families about their cultural interests and barriers to museum attendance. The work revealed my aptitude for understanding audience needs and designing programs that bridged academic scholarship with community service. During this period, family conversations became increasingly strained. David's acceptance to Harvard Medical School generated celebration and pride that filled family gatherings for months, while my graduate school achievements were acknowledged briefly before discussions returned to David's impressive MCAT scores and interviews with department heads. The pattern of recognition and dismissal became so predictable that I began avoiding family gatherings where possible, preferring to immerse myself in graduate research and professional development activities. The distance created breathing room for personal growth, but also increased my father's criticism of my selfishness and lack of family commitment. My first professional position after completing my master's degree involved coordinating educational programs at the Hispanic Cultural Center in Hartford. The salary was modest, particularly when compared to starting salaries for medical residents, but the work provided immediate satisfaction and clear evidence of positive community impact. Families who had never considered museums as relevant to their lives began attending programs and bringing children for educational activities. However, family reactions to my professional achievements remained lukewarm. During a dinner celebrating David's completion of his first year of medical school, my father dismissed my promotion to program director as a nice little job, while praising David's research publication in a medical journal. The consistent minimization of my accomplishments created a sense of invisibility that was becoming increasingly difficult to tolerate. The breaking point approached during David's third year of medical school, when our father began planning an elaborate graduation celebration. The event planning consumed family conversations for months, with detailed discussions of guest lists, venues, and catering that reflected the significance our father placed on David's achievement. During this planning period, I received notification of my acceptance to a competitive fellowship program that would provide funding for doctoral research on Latino cultural preservation. The fellowship represented recognition from national arts organizations and would position me for leadership roles in major cultural institutions. However, when I shared this news during a family dinner, my father's response was predictably dismissive. "Another degree in art?" he asked with barely concealed frustration. "Elena, when are you going to pursue something that matters? David is saving lives, contributing to society, building a career that makes a difference. You are spending more years studying paintings." The comparison stung not just because of its unfairness, but because it revealed my father's complete inability to understand the value of cultural preservation and education. In his mind, only medical careers constituted meaningful contribution to society, and everything else represented frivolous self-indulgence. That conversation crystallized my understanding that family approval would never be available for my chosen path, regardless of my achievements or recognition within my field. The realization was simultaneously liberating and heartbreaking, freeing me from the pursuit of validation that would never come, while forcing me to accept that my relationship with my father would always be colored by his disappointment in my choices. The fellowship program at the Smithsonian Institution provided opportunities for research and professional development that exceeded anything I had imagined possible during my undergraduate years. Working with leading scholars in Latino cultural studies, I developed expertise in museum development, educational programming, and community engagement that positioned me for advancement within major cultural institutions. Preparing and narrating. This story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now, back to the story. More importantly, the fellowship introduced me to philanthropic professionals who worked with individual donors and foundations to support cultural programming. These conversations revealed funding mechanisms and development strategies that museums used to sustain operations and expand community outreach. The exposure sparked my interest in the business aspects of cultural institutions and began to shape my understanding of how individual contributions could transform organizational capabilities. During the second year of my fellowship, I was recruited to join the development team at the Museum of Latino Culture in Los Angeles. The position involved identifying potential donors, writing grant proposals, and coordinating fundraising events for programs that served underrepresented communities. The work combined my academic expertise with practical business skills, creating a career path that was both financially sustainable and personally meaningful. The transition to Los Angeles represented my first experience living more than driving distance from family. The geographic separation reduced the frequency of awkward family gatherings, while allowing me to build professional relationships and personal friendships without constant comparison to David's medical career trajectory. My work in museum development proved both challenging and rewarding in ways that reinforced my conviction about the value of cultural preservation and education. Securing funding for programs that introduced Latino children to their cultural heritage, developing exhibitions that celebrated immigrant contributions to American society, and building partnerships with community organizations created tangible evidence of positive social impact. More significantly, my development work introduced me to successful Latino professionals who had built careers in fields that my father had never considered legitimate. Attorneys who specialized in immigration law, educators who developed bilingual curriculum, entrepreneurs who created businesses serving Latino communities. These professionals demonstrated that meaningful careers existed outside traditional medicine and law paths. The financial aspects of my development work gradually improved as I demonstrated success in securing grants and building donor relationships. Annual salary increases and performance bonuses began to provide the financial security that my father had insisted was impossible in cultural fields. More importantly, the work environment provided professional recognition and advancement opportunities that validated my career choices in ways that family approval never could. By my late 20s, I had established myself as a rising professional in museum development with a track record of successful fundraising and program creation. Professional colleagues respected my expertise, community organizations valued my contributions, and my financial situation had stabilized sufficiently to support comfortable independent living. Yet family relationships remained strained by my father's persistent disappointment in my career choices. Holiday gatherings continued to feature extensive praise for David's medical achievements, while my professional successes were acknowledged briefly and without enthusiasm. The pattern had become so predictable that I began planning alternative holiday activities to avoid the emotional exhaustion of seeking approval that would never be offered. The most painful aspect of this family dynamic was not my father's disappointment itself, but his public expression of that disappointment in social situations. At extended family gatherings, neighborhood events, and professional functions, he would introduce David with obvious pride, while describing my work with resigned tolerance. The public minimization of my achievements created embarrassment that extended beyond family relationships to affect my confidence in professional and social settings. Despite these challenges, my career continued to advance through recognition of my expertise in Latino cultural programming and development success. Invitations to speak at professional conferences, appointments to museum advisory boards, and consulting opportunities with major cultural institutions provided external validation that gradually reduced my dependence on family approval for self-worth. The most transformative aspect of my professional development involved learning about major gift fundraising and philanthropic strategy. Working with high-net-worth donors taught me about wealth accumulation, investment strategies, and the psychological motivations that drive charitable giving. These skills proved invaluable as my own financial situation improved through salary advancement and strategic investment of savings. As David approached completion of medical school, family excitement about his graduation ceremony and celebration began to dominate conversations during my increasingly rare visits home. The planning process revealed the enormous pride that my father felt in David's achievements and the social recognition that he anticipated from his son's medical career. During one particularly difficult conversation about graduation party planning, my father made his feelings about my career choices explicitly clear in a way that crystallized years of accumulated disappointment and resentment. David's graduation represents everything we worked for when we came to this country, he told me as we discussed guest lists for the celebration. His achievement justifies every sacrifice we made and proves that our family can succeed in America. I wish I could say the same about all of my children. The comment stung with its directness, but it also provided clarity about the fundamental differences in our values and definitions of success. My father measured achievement through traditional professional status and social recognition, while I had learned to value impact, personal fulfillment, and alignment between work and values. Yet even as I had developed confidence in my career, choices, and professional abilities, the prospect of attending David's graduation celebration filled me with anxiety about public family dynamics and the inevitable comparisons between his achievements and my perceived failures. The event would bring together extended family friends, and David's medical school colleagues in a setting where my father's pride in David would be celebrated, while my own accomplishments would be minimized or ignored. What none of them knew, as the graduation party approached, was that my career in museum development had taught me far more than cultural preservation and educational programming. It had introduced me to wealth-building strategies, investment opportunities, and philanthropic giving that had transformed my financial situation in ways that would soon become relevant to David's future career, in ways none of us anticipated. The stage was set for a confrontation that would forever change our family's understanding of success, achievement, and the value of paths that diverge from traditional expectations. Audience engagement moment. Before we continue with Elena's story, I want to pause here and connect with you on a deeper level. Elena's experience of constantly being compared unfavorably to a sibling, of having her achievements minimized because they did not fit her family's definition of success, touches on something many of us have experienced. Have you ever felt like your accomplishments were invisible to the people whose recognition you craved most? Have you chosen a path that others could not understand, only to face constant questions about when you would pursue something more practical or more important? The pain of family disappointment can be particularly devastating because these are the people who are supposed to believe in us unconditionally. When parents or siblings cannot see the value in our choices, it forces us to develop internal validation and confidence that does not depend on their approval. Elena's story demonstrates that sometimes the people closest to us are the least capable of recognizing our potential, especially when our success looks different from their expectations. Her journey illustrates the importance of finding professional communities and mentors who can validate our worth when family relationships fail to provide that support. If you have ever felt undervalued by family members who could not understand your chosen path, share your experience in the comments below. Your story might provide encouragement for others who are struggling with similar family dynamics. Like this video if you believe that success should be defined by personal fulfillment and positive impact rather than solely by traditional status markers. Subscribe to this channel for more stories about people who found the courage to pursue meaningful careers despite family pressure to choose more conventional paths. Elena's story is about to take a dramatic turn that will challenge everything her family believes about success, achievement, and the value of following your passion. The graduation party that was meant to celebrate David's medical achievement will become the setting for a revelation that changes the entire family dynamic forever. The transition from Hartford to Los Angeles marked the beginning of a professional journey that would reshape my understanding of both cultural preservation and financial opportunity. The Museum of Latino Culture occupied a stunning converted warehouse in downtown Los Angeles, its soaring ceilings and modern exhibition spaces representing the type of institution I had dreamed of joining during my graduate studies. My role as development associate required mastery of skills that extended far beyond my academic training in art history and museum studies. Within my first month, I discovered that successful fundraising demanded psychological insight, strategic thinking, and relationship-building capabilities that rivaled any business profession my father might have considered legitimate. The development department operated with sophisticated systems for identifying potential donors, researching their financial capacity and philanthropic interests, and cultivating relationships that could eventually result in major gifts. My supervisor, Maria Santos, had built her career over 15 years by transforming the museum's annual fundraising from modest community donations to major gifts from foundations and individual philanthropists. Maria became the professional mentor I had never found within my family structure. During our weekly strategy meetings, she shared insights about wealth identification, donor psychology, and stewardship practices that revealed the complexity and professionalism required for successful museum development. Cultural institutions succeed or fail based on their ability to articulate value to people who have resources, Maria explained during one of our early training sessions. Your job involves understanding what motivates successful people to invest in cultural preservation and community education. This requires research skills, analytical thinking, and strategic communication that rival any profession. The revelation proved transformative. For the first time, I encountered work that demanded intellectual rigor while creating measurable impact on community education and cultural preservation. The fundraising profession required skills that my family would have recognized as sophisticated if they had been applied to medical research or legal practice. My first major success involved securing a $50,000 grant from a foundation that supported Latino educational programming. The proposal required extensive research on community demographics, educational outcomes, and program evaluation methodologies. The successful grant application demonstrated my ability to combine scholarly research with practical program development in ways that generated tangible financial results. The grant success led to increased responsibilities and recognition within the museum. Maria assigned me to research major gift prospects, individuals and families with capacity to make donations of $100,000 or more. This work introduced me to the financial strategies and investment approaches that enabled high-net-worth individuals to build substantial wealth while supporting charitable causes. Researching philanthropic prospects required understanding business, ownership structures, real estate investments, stock portfolios, and inheritance patterns that created substantial wealth among successful professionals and entrepreneurs. The education proved invaluable as I began to understand wealth accumulation strategies that extended far beyond traditional employment income. The most significant learning opportunity arose when Maria assigned me to cultivate a relationship with Roberto Mendez, a successful technology entrepreneur who had expressed interest in supporting Latino cultural programming. Roberto had built and sold 2 software companies, generating wealth that enabled him to consider philanthropic investments in education and cultural preservation. My initial meeting with Roberto took place at his offices in Silicon Beach, where his current venture was developing educational technology for bilingual students. The conversation revealed a sophisticated business mind combined with genuine commitment to Latino community advancement through education and cultural awareness. My success in technology came from understanding market opportunities that others overlooked, Roberto explained as we discussed his philanthropic interests. Latino communities represent enormous economic potential that mainstream institutions consistently underestimate. Supporting cultural programming is both socially valuable and strategically intelligent investment in community development. Roberto's perspective challenged my assumptions about the relationship between business success and social impact. Unlike my father's narrow definition of professional value, Roberto demonstrated how entrepreneurial success could be leveraged to create community benefit while generating financial returns through strategic investment approaches. Over several months of relationship building, Roberto agreed to fund a major exhibition on Latino contributions to American technology innovation. His gift of $250,000 represented the largest single donation in the museum's history and established a model for combining cultural programming with business community engagement. The success with Roberto's gift transformed my role within the museum and introduced me to development strategies that extended beyond traditional fundraising approaches. Maria promoted me to Senior Development Officer and assigned me responsibility for identifying and cultivating major gift prospects with capacity for donations exceeding $100,000. The promotion came with salary advancement. That significantly improved my financial situation, while providing exposure to wealth management strategies through my work with high-net-worth donors. Conversations with successful philanthropists revealed investment approaches, business ownership opportunities, and financial planning techniques that enabled wealth accumulation beyond traditional employment compensation. During this period, I began implementing investment strategies learned through my donor research and relationship building activities. Modest investments in technology stocks, real estate investment trusts, and diversified mutual funds began generating returns that supplemented my museum salary and created a foundation for long-term wealth building. The financial education proved as valuable as the professional advancement. Working with donors worth millions of dollars taught me about compound interest, tax-advantaged investing, and business ownership structures that created passive income streams. These insights enabled me to build financial security through strategic investment rather than relying solely on employment income. My success in major gift fundraising continued to accelerate as I developed expertise in identifying and cultivating relationships with Latino business owners and professionals who had achieved significant financial success. Within 3 years, I had secured over $2 million in major gifts for museum programming, establishing myself as one of the most successful development professionals in the Los Angeles cultural community. The professional recognition led to consulting opportunities with other cultural institutions seeking to develop Latino donor relationships and programming strategies. This additional income stream, combined with my investment activities, began generating financial resources that exceeded anything my family had imagined possible in cultural professions. More importantly, the consulting work introduced me to development professionals at major institutions, including the Getty Center, the Los Angeles County Museum of Art, and the California Science Center. These relationships provided insight into philanthropic strategies at the highest levels of cultural institutional leadership. One particularly significant consulting project involved advising the Getty Center on their Latino community engagement strategy. The project required developing relationships with Latino business leaders, analyzing community demographics, and designing programming that would attract new audiences while generating donor support for expansion initiatives. The Getty Consulting work brought me into contact with Elena Vasquez, a venture capitalist who had built substantial wealth through technology investments while maintaining active involvement in Latino cultural preservation initiatives. Elena became both a professional, mentor, and personal friend, sharing insights about wealth building that transformed my understanding of financial opportunity. Cultural preservation is valuable work, but you should not limit yourself to salary dependence, Elena advised during one of our strategy meetings. Your development skills translate directly to business consulting, board service, and investment opportunities. Building wealth enables greater philanthropic impact while providing personal financial security. Elena's guidance led to my first significant business investment opportunity. Through her network, I learned about a real estate development project in East Los Angeles that combined market-rate housing with affordable units and cultural programming space. The investment required $50,000, but offered potential returns that could significantly accelerate my wealth-building activities. The real estate investment proved successful beyond expectations. Within 2 years, the project generated returns that doubled my initial investment while creating housing and cultural programming that benefited the Latino community. The success provided both financial advancement and evidence that my skills could generate wealth through business involvement rather than solely through employment. This success led to additional investment opportunities in businesses that combined financial returns with community benefit. Restaurant ventures that featured Latino cuisine and cultural programming, technology startups developing educational tools for bilingual students, and consulting firms specializing in Latino market development all provided investment opportunities that aligned with my values while building wealth. By my early 30s, my investment activities had generated enough passive income to provide financial security that exceeded my museum salary. The wealth-building success enabled me to consider philanthropic activities of my own, while maintaining my professional commitment to cultural preservation and community education. The irony was not lost on me that my career in the supposedly impractical field of art history had provided financial education and investment opportunities that my father's medical profession had never offered. The museum development work had introduced me to wealth-building strategies that created more substantial financial security than traditional professional employment. During this period, family relationships remained strained by my father's persistent disappointment in my career choices despite my obvious professional and financial success. Holiday visits became increasingly uncomfortable as David's progression through medical school generated family celebration, while my achievements in fundraising and investment were dismissed as irrelevant to serious career development. The most painful aspect of these family dynamics involved my father's public minimization of my professional achievements in social settings. At family gatherings, neighborhood events, and community functions, he would introduce David as our son the doctor, while describing my work as Elena's museum job in terms that suggested charitable indulgence rather than professional accomplishment. These experiences reinforced my commitment to building success that did not depend on family validation, while strengthening my determination to prove that cultural professions could generate both personal fulfillment and financial achievement. The wealth-building activities provided concrete evidence that my career choices had been strategically sound despite family skepticism. As David approached graduation from Harvard Medical School, family excitement about his achievement and future career prospects reached unprecedented levels. Planning for his graduation celebration consumed family conversations for months, with detailed discussions of venues, guest lists, and catering that reflected the enormous pride my father felt in David's medical accomplishment. Meanwhile, my own professional achievements continued to accelerate in ways that generated recognition within the cultural community, but remained invisible to my family. Appointment to the board of directors for the California Association of Museums, speaking engagements at national development conferences, and consulting contracts with major cultural institutions all provided professional validation that contrasted sharply with family indifference. The most significant professional opportunity arose when I was recruited to join the development team at Harvard's Peabody Museum of Archaeology and Ethnology. The position offered substantial salary advancement, relocation to Cambridge, and responsibility for developing philanthropic relationships with Latino alumni and donors interested in supporting archaeological research and cultural preservation programming. The Harvard opportunity represented validation from the same institution that had trained David in medicine, yet my father's reaction to the job offer revealed his continued inability to recognize the value of my career achievements. During a phone conversation announcing my recruitment, his response focused on my proximity to David rather than the professional significance of the position. "At least you will be close to David," he commented after I described the role and responsibilities. "Maybe working at Harvard will help you understand what serious academic achievement looks like. Perhaps you can still consider pursuing real graduate education in a field that matters." The response crystallized my understanding that family approval would never be available regardless of my professional achievements or financial success. His inability to recognize that Harvard had recruited me for expertise in museum development and Latino cultural programming revealed the limitations of his perspective rather than the inadequacy of my career choices. Nevertheless, I accepted the Harvard position and relocated to Cambridge during David's final year of medical school. The proximity provided opportunities to observe the medical school community and understand the environment that had shaped David's professional development while pursuing my own advancement in cultural institutional leadership. The Harvard position exceeded every expectation I had harbored about professional development opportunities. Working with alumni donors worth hundreds of millions of dollars, developing relationships with foundation executives who controlled major cultural programming, grants, and collaborating with faculty researchers on archaeological projects that preserved Latino cultural heritage, all provided intellectual challenge and meaningful impact. More significantly, the Harvard position introduced me to philanthropic strategies at unprecedented scales. Alumni donors who had built substantial wealth through business success, investment activities, and professional achievement shared insights about wealth management and charitable giving that further accelerated my own financial development. 1. Particularly influential relationship developed with Patricia Morales, a Harvard alumna who had built a biotechnology company that generated hundreds of millions in revenue before she sold it to pursue full-time philanthropic activities. Patricia became a mentor who shared insights about business development, investment strategy, and philanthropic impact that transformed my understanding of wealth building and social contribution. Your development work demonstrates sophisticated business skills that could be applied to entrepreneurial ventures, Patricia observed during one of our cultivation meetings. Museum fundraising requires the same strategic thinking, relationship building, and financial analysis that drives successful business development. You should consider how these skills could generate wealth that enables even greater philanthropic impact. Patricia's guidance led to my involvement in a business venture that would eventually generate the wealth necessary for the philanthropic activities that would transform David's graduation celebration. Through her network, I learned about investment, opportunities in biotechnology companies developing treatments for diseases that disproportionately affected Latino communities. The biotechnology investments required substantial capital, but offered potential returns that could fund major philanthropic initiatives, while advancing medical research that aligned with my values around community benefit and cultural preservation. The decision to invest represented the culmination of years of financial education and wealth building through museum development work. Within 18 months, one of the biotechnology investments achieved breakthrough results in clinical trials for treatments addressing diabetes complications that significantly impacted Latino populations. The company's valuation increased dramatically, generating returns that provided the financial resources necessary for major philanthropic giving while maintaining my professional commitment to cultural preservation. As David's graduation approached, I possessed both the motivation and financial capacity to make a philanthropic gesture that would forever change our family's understanding of success, achievement, and the value of pursuing meaningful work regardless of traditional status expectations. The stage was set for a revelation that would challenge every assumption my father had made about the worth of my career choices and the legitimacy of cultural preservation as professional work. The graduation celebration planning revealed my father's enormous pride in David's medical achievement and his anticipation of the social recognition that would come from having a son who was a Harvard-trained physician. What he could not have anticipated was that his public dismissal of my achievements would create an opportunity for me to demonstrate the financial and philanthropic success that my supposedly impractical career had generated. The foundation was laid for a confrontation that would forever alter our family dynamics and provide definitive evidence that success cannot be measured solely through traditional professional status or social recognition. The graduation party would become the setting for a revelation about the true value of following your passion while building wealth through strategic investment and philanthropic engagement. The decision to make a transformative philanthropic gesture at David's graduation celebration emerged from a convergence of professional opportunity, personal conviction, and strategic timing that had been building throughout my tenure at Harvard. The Peabody Museum had been seeking a major donor to establish an endowed fund for Latino archaeological research and cultural preservation programming, and my investment success provided the financial capacity to fulfill this institutional need, while addressing my own desire to demonstrate the meaningful impact that cultural professions could generate. My conversations with Museum Director Dr. Jonathan Morrison revealed the scope of funding required to establish a permanent endowment that would support archaeological expeditions, research fellowships, and community education programs focused on Latino cultural heritage. The target amount of $5 million represented a substantial commitment that would place my name among the museum's most significant benefactors while creating lasting impact on scholarly research and public education. The financial analysis confirmed that my biotechnology investment returns, combined with gains from real estate ventures and technology stock positions, provided sufficient liquid assets to fund the endowment without compromising my own financial security. The wealth accumulation that had occurred through strategic investment activities over the previous 8 years exceeded anything my family had imagined possible through cultural profession engagement. More significantly, the endowment opportunity aligned perfectly with my professional expertise and personal values around Latino cultural preservation. The fund would support research on pre-Columbian civilizations, fund educational programming for underserved communities, and create fellowships for Latino students pursuing archaeological and anthropological studies. The philanthropic investment would generate measurable impact on academic research while advancing community education objectives that had motivated my entire career trajectory. The timing of the endowment announcement presented an opportunity to address family dynamics that had caused years of personal frustration and professional minimization. David's graduation celebration would bring together extended family members, medical school colleagues, and community leaders in a setting where my father's pride in traditional professional achievement would be celebrated publicly. The endowment revelation would provide dramatic evidence that alternative career paths could generate both financial success and meaningful social contribution. Dr. Morrison expressed enthusiasm about the proposed endowment and agreed to coordinate the announcement. Timing with David's graduation celebration, the museum's development office prepared materials documenting the endowment's scope and impact potential, emphasizing the significance of such philanthropic commitment from a young professional in cultural preservation fields. The strategic planning for the announcement required careful consideration of timing, audience, and messaging that would maximize both institutional benefit and personal vindication. Dr. Morrison suggested that the formal announcement occur during the graduation reception, allowing the academic credentials of Harvard's leadership to provide context for understanding the endowment's scholarly significance and philanthropic impact. Meanwhile, David's graduation planning consumed family conversations throughout the spring semester of his final year at Harvard Medical School. My father's excitement about the celebration reached unprecedented levels as he coordinated guest lists that included extended family members, longtime family friends, medical school faculty, and colleagues from his own orthopedic practice. The event planning reflected his enormous pride in David's achievement and his anticipation of the social recognition that would accompany having a Harvard-trained physician in the family. The venue selection process revealed the scale of celebration my father envisioned for David's accomplishment. After considering multiple options, he reserved the elegant ballroom at the Riverside Country Club, a prestigious location that could accommodate the extensive guest list while providing the formal atmosphere appropriate for celebrating medical school graduation from Harvard University. My own involvement in the graduation planning remained minimal, consistent with the family dynamic that had characterized major celebrations throughout my adult life. Conversations about catering, entertainment, and logistics proceeded without soliciting my input, while David's preferences and opinions received careful consideration and implementation. The planning process reinforced my position as a peripheral family member whose presence was expected but whose contributions were not valued. The most revealing aspect of the graduation planning involved guest list development and invitation language that emphasized David's medical achievement while making no reference to other family members' professional accomplishments. The invitation described the celebration as honoring Dr. David Rodriguez upon his graduation from Harvard Medical School, with language that positioned his achievement as the culmination of family aspirations and immigrant success narratives. During one particularly frustrating conversation about graduation planning, my father made explicit his expectations about my role during the celebration and his perspective on my professional achievements relative to David's medical accomplishment. This celebration represents everything we worked toward when we came to America, he explained as we discussed seating arrangements for the reception dinner. David's success as a Harvard-trained physician proves that our family can achieve the highest levels of professional recognition in this country. I hope his example will inspire you to reconsider your own career choices and pursue something more substantial than museum work. The comment crystallized the fundamental disconnect between my father's definition of professional success and my own understanding of meaningful work and social contribution. His inability to recognize that my museum development activities had generated both financial achievement and scholarly impact revealed the limitations of his perspective rather than the inadequacy of my career choices. Nevertheless, the graduation planning continued with elaborate attention to details that would showcase David's accomplishment and provide social recognition for our father's success in raising a Harvard-educated physician. Menu selections, floral arrangements, and entertainment choices all reflected the formal elegance appropriate for celebrating what my father considered the pinnacle of professional achievement. As the graduation date approached, I completed the final arrangements for the endowment announcement with Dr. Morrison and the Peabody Museum Development Team. The documentation process required extensive legal review and financial verification to ensure that the philanthropic commitment met all institutional requirements for major gift acceptance and stewardship. The endowment structure established the Elena Rodriguez Fund for Latino Archaeological Research and Cultural Preservation, providing annual funding for research expeditions, graduate student fellowships, and community education programming in perpetuity. The fund's scope would enable the museum to expand its Latino cultural programming significantly while establishing Harvard as a leading institution for research on pre-Columbian civilizations and contemporary Latino cultural preservation. The legal and financial arrangements required several weeks to complete, involving attorneys who specialized in philanthropic giving, financial advisors who managed the asset transfer process, and museum administrators who established the fund's governance structure and spending policies. The complexity of the philanthropic transaction reflected the substantial scale of the commitment and its long-term impact on institutional programming. Dr. Morrison coordinated with graduation event organizers to ensure that his attendance at David's celebration would appear natural, while positioning him to make the endowment announcement at an appropriate moment during the reception program. The strategy required careful timing to maximize the dramatic impact of the revelation while maintaining appropriate respect for David's educational achievement. The week preceding David's graduation brought the usual family dynamics into sharp focus as relatives arrived for the celebration and conversations centered entirely on David's medical accomplishment and future career prospects. Extended family members who had not visited for years made special trips to attend the graduation, reflecting the social significance that Latino families place on educational achievement and professional advancement. During a family dinner 3 days before the graduation ceremony, my father delivered what would prove to be the final expression of his disappointment in my career choices before the dramatic revelation that would transform our family's understanding of success and achievement. Elena, I hope that being around David's medical school environment will help you understand what real professional accomplishment looks like, he announced to the assembled family members during dessert. Perhaps it is not too late for you to pursue graduate education in a field that matters and contributes meaningfully to society. The public nature of his criticism, delivered in front of extended family members who rarely witnessed our family dynamics, created particular embarrassment and reinforced my determination to proceed with the endowment announcement despite the potential for family disruption. His inability to recognize my professional achievements in front of relatives who had traveled specifically to celebrate educational success revealed the depth of his misunderstanding about cultural preservation work and philanthropic accomplishment. My cousin Maria, who had completed law school and understood professional achievement outside medical fields, attempted to redirect the conversation by asking about my work at Harvard. Her questions about museum development and cultural programming provided an opportunity to describe my professional responsibilities and accomplishments. Yet my father's dismissive responses made clear that he considered such work irrelevant to serious career discussion. Elena has a nice job at a museum, he explained to Maria with barely concealed condescension. She organizes events and writes grant applications. It is not really a career in the way that David's medical practice will be a career. Museums are fine for hobbies, but they do not provide the financial security or social contribution that professional work requires. The characterization of my development work as event organization and grant writing revealed his complete misunderstanding of the sophisticated fundraising strategies, relationship management skills, and financial analysis capabilities that major gift work required. His dismissal of philanthropic activities as socially insignificant demonstrated ignorance about the role that charitable giving played in supporting educational institutions, medical research, and community programming. The graduation ceremony itself proceeded with the formal elegance characteristic of Harvard Medical School traditions. David's accomplishment represented genuine achievement that deserved recognition and celebration, regardless of family dynamics or comparative career analysis. His dedication to medical education and commitment to patient care reflected values that commanded respect, even as I disagreed with my father's dismissal of alternative professional paths. The ceremony provided opportunities to observe the medical school community and understand the professional environment that had shaped David's educational experience. Faculty speakers, administrative leaders, and student representatives all emphasized themes of service, dedication, and social contribution that resonated with my own values around meaningful work and community impact. Following the formal graduation ceremony, the family gathered for photographs and brief celebrations before transitioning to the afternoon reception at the Riverside Country Club. The venue transformation created an elegant atmosphere that reflected the significance my father placed on the occasion and his pride in David's accomplishment. The reception guest list included approximately 150 people, representing the extensive network of family relationships, professional associations, and community connections that my father had cultivated throughout his medical career and community involvement. The diversity of attendees provided an audience that would witness both his public expression of pride in David and his dismissive comments about my own professional achievements. Dr. Morrison arrived at the reception as planned, introducing himself as a colleague interested in meeting our family and learning about David's plans for medical practice. His presence created no suspicion among family members, who assumed that Harvard faculty routinely attended student celebrations and maintained informal relationships with graduates and their families. The reception program included brief remarks from family members, congratulations from David's medical school classmates, and expressions of pride from my father that emphasized the immigrant success narrative and the realization of American educational opportunities. The speeches provided context for understanding the social significance that medical education held within our family's cultural framework and community expectations. As the reception progressed through dinner service and formal toasts, I observed family dynamics that had characterized our relationships for decades while preparing for the announcement that would forever alter our understanding of professional success and family achievement. The anticipation created both anxiety about potential family disruption and excitement about demonstrating the financial and philanthropic success that my cultural profession work had generated. The moment for the endowment announcement approached, as Dr. Morrison positioned himself to address the assembled guests following the completion of family toasts and congratulations. The timing had been carefully coordinated to maximize dramatic impact, while maintaining appropriate respect for David's educational accomplishment and the celebratory atmosphere that my father had worked to create. What followed would transform not only family perceptions about my career choices and professional achievements, but also our collective understanding of how success should be measured and what types of work generate meaningful social contribution. The revelation would provide dramatic vindication for years of pursuing authentic professional interests, despite family pressure to choose more conventional career paths. The stage was set for a confrontation that would forever change our family's narrative about achievement, success, and the value of following your passion while building wealth through strategic investment and philanthropic engagement. The graduation celebration that was meant to honor David's medical accomplishment would become the setting for a revelation about the true scope of success that alternative career paths could generate when pursued with dedication, strategic thinking, and commitment to meaningful social impact. The evening air carried the scent of spring blossoms as guests arrived at the Riverside Country Club for David's graduation celebration. The venue had been transformed into an elegant showcase worthy of the occasion, with crystal chandeliers, casting warm light over tables adorned with white linens and centerpieces that reflected my father's attention to every detail of this momentous celebration. I arrived separately from my family, having spent the afternoon finalizing last-minute coordination with Dr. Morrison regarding the timing and content of the endowment announcement. The drive from Cambridge to the country club provided necessary solitude to prepare mentally for what would unfold over the next several hours. The weight of the revelation I was about to share created a mixture of anticipation and anxiety that intensified as I approached the venue. The parking lot filled with luxury vehicles that reflected the socioeconomic status of the guest list my father had assembled. Mercedes sedans, BMW SUVs, and Lexus coupes represented the financial success of medical professionals, business owners, and established families who comprised our social circle in Westfield. The display of wealth created ironic context for the assumptions about my own financial situation that would soon be dramatically challenged. Upon entering the ballroom, I observed the careful attention to presentation that characterized my father's approach to significant social events. Round tables covered in ivory linen surrounded a central dance floor, while elevated floral arrangements created visual elegance without obstructing conversation. The bar area featured top-shelf liquors and premium wines that reflected both celebration and status display. The guest list represented 3 decades of relationship building within the Latino professional community and broader Westfield social network. Medical colleagues from my father's orthopedic practice mingled with business owners who had achieved success in various industries. Extended family members who had traveled from different states created a reunion atmosphere that amplified the significance of David's educational accomplishment. David moved through the reception with obvious pride and genuine humility, accepting congratulations from guests who had watched him progress from childhood through his medical education journey. His interactions demonstrated the charm and professional confidence that had contributed to his academic success, while maintaining the personal warmth that made him genuinely likable despite our complicated family dynamics. My own reception, among the assembled guests, reflected the established family narrative about my professional status and life choices. Extended relatives inquired politely about my museum work, using language that suggested charitable indulgence rather than recognition of professional achievement. Family friends who had known me since childhood expressed pleasantries about my life in Boston, without demonstrating genuine interest in my career accomplishments or current responsibilities. The most telling interactions occurred with my father's medical colleagues, who represented the professional community he most respected and whose opinions carried significant weight in his evaluation of career success. These conversations revealed his consistent characterization of my work as peripheral to serious professional achievement, and his ongoing disappointment in my failure to pursue traditional high-status career paths. Dr. Patricia Vega, a cardiologist, who had known our family for 15 years, approached me during the cocktail hour with questions that reflected conversations she had obviously had with my father about my career trajectory and life choices. "Elena, your father mentioned that you work at a museum in Boston," she began with the slightly condescending tone that medical professionals sometimes employed when discussing alternative career paths. "That must be interesting work, though. I imagine the financial compensation is quite limited compared to professional careers. Have you considered returning to school for something more substantial, perhaps medicine or law?" The question embodied the assumptions that permeated my father's social circle about cultural professions and their relative value compared to traditional high-status careers. Dr. Vega's suggestion that my work was financially inadequate and professionally insubstantial reflected conversations with my father that had clearly emphasized his disappointment in my career choices and his hope that I might eventually pursue more conventional professional paths. My response maintained diplomatic courtesy while providing factual information about museum development work and its financial compensation structures. I described the sophisticated fundraising strategies, relationship management responsibilities, and analytical skills required for major gift work without revealing the specific financial success that my investment activities had generated. Museum development involves complex relationship building with high-net-worth individuals and strategic analysis of philanthropic opportunities, I explained to Dr. Vega with professional confidence. The work requires business skills that parallel many traditional professions, and the compensation reflects the specialized expertise required for successful institutional advancement. Her polite but skeptical response indicated that my father's characterization of my work as peripheral hobby activity had influenced her perception more than my direct explanation of professional responsibilities and requirements. The interaction reinforced my understanding of how consistently my achievements had been minimized within my father's professional and social circles. Similar conversations occurred throughout the cocktail reception as guests inquired about my life and career, with varying degrees of genuine interest versus social obligation. The pattern of responses revealed that my father's dismissive attitude toward my professional achievements had shaped perceptions among people who had known me for years, but understood my career only through his filtered perspective. The transition to dinner service provided respite from these uncomfortable social interactions, while creating anticipation for the formal program that would include family toasts, congratulations from David's medical school colleagues, and expressions of pride from my father. The seating arrangements reflected family hierarchy and social relationships, with places of honor reserved for immediate family members and distinguished guests. I found myself seated at a table with extended family members and family friends, positioned to observe the head table where my parents and David would receive primary attention throughout the evening's program. The seating assignment reflected my peripheral status within family celebrations, while providing optimal vantage point for witnessing the events that would soon unfold. Dr. Morrison arrived precisely as planned, introducing himself to my parents as a Harvard administrator interested in meeting families of graduating students. His presence created no suspicion among family members, who assumed that university representatives routinely attended such celebrations as part of alumni relationship building activities. The dinner service proceeded with elegant efficiency, as guests enjoyed carefully selected menu items that reflected both culinary sophistication and cultural preferences. Conversations at individual tables focused on David's accomplishments, his future career plans, and the pride that his achievement brought to our family's immigrant success narrative. The formal program began following completion of the main course, with my father assuming his role as master of ceremonies for an evening dedicated to celebrating his son's educational accomplishment. His opening remarks emphasized themes that had characterized family conversations throughout David's medical education journey: sacrifice, determination, achievement, and the realization of American dream aspirations through educational excellence. Tonight, we celebrate not only David's graduation from Harvard Medical School, but the fulfillment of dreams that Carmen and I carried when we first arrived in this country 35 years ago, my father announced to the assembled guests with obvious emotion. David's achievement represents everything we hope to accomplish through hard work, sacrifice, and unwavering commitment to educational excellence. The speech continued with detailed recounting of David's academic achievements, his dedication to medical education, and his future plans for specialization in emergency medicine. My father's pride permeated every word as he described his son's accomplishments to an audience that included many people who had observed David's progression from childhood through medical school graduation. Extended family members and friends offered their own brief remarks, sharing memories of David's childhood interests in science and medicine, his academic excellence throughout his educational journey, and their pride in witnessing his achievement of professional goals that had seemed ambitious but attainable through sustained effort and family support. The celebration continued with toasts from David's medical school classmates who had traveled to attend the reception. Their remarks emphasized his clinical competence, his collaborative spirit, and his dedication to patient care that had earned respect from faculty and fellow students throughout his medical education experience. David's own response to these expressions of support and congratulations demonstrated the humility and professionalism that had contributed to his academic success. His remarks thanked family members for their support, acknowledged the guidance of medical school faculty, and expressed commitment to serving patients with the same dedication that had characterized his educational preparation. The formal program continued with additional toasts and congratulations that created an atmosphere of celebration and recognition appropriate for acknowledging significant educational achievement. The assembled guests represented a community that understood the sacrifices required for medical education and the professional accomplishments that David's graduation represented. As the evening progressed toward its climactic moment, I observed family dynamics that had characterized our relationships for decades while preparing for the revelation that would transform our collective understanding of professional success and achievement. The anticipation created internal tension that intensified as my father prepared to deliver what would prove to be his final public dismissal of my career choices. The moment arrived as my father returned to the microphone for closing remarks that were intended to summarize the evening's significance and express final thoughts about family achievement and future aspirations. His speech began with additional praise for David's accomplishments before transitioning to broader observations about family success and the realization of immigrant aspirations through educational achievement. This celebration represents more than David's individual accomplishment, he announced to the assembled guests with increasing emotional intensity. It represents the vindication of every sacrifice Carmen and I made when we left our home countries to build better lives for our children. David's success proves that our family can achieve the highest levels of professional recognition and social contribution in America. The speech continued with observations about the importance of choosing career paths that provided both financial security and meaningful social contribution, themes that had characterized his criticism of my professional choices throughout my adult life. His remarks created obvious setup for commentary about family members whose career decisions had not met his standards for professional achievement and social recognition. The pivotal moment arrived as my father's remarks transitioned from celebration of David's success to implicit criticism of alternative career choices that had disappointed family expectations and failed to justify parental sacrifices for educational opportunities. "Here's to my son David, who has made our family proud, unlike some people," he declared, while raising his champagne glass toward the assembled guests. His eyes found mine across the ballroom as he continued with words that would forever mark this moment in our family's history. At least one of my children turned out to be something other than a disappointment. The public nature of his criticism created immediate discomfort among guests who recognized the personal nature of his remarks and the inappropriateness of using David's celebration as an opportunity to diminish another family member's achievements. The silence that followed his statement reflected collective recognition that his words had crossed boundaries of appropriate behavior for such occasions. Extended family members exchanged uncomfortable glances while family friends focused their attention on their dinner plates, clearly wishing to avoid witnessing family conflict during what should have been purely celebratory gathering. The tension in the ballroom became palpable as guests struggled to process the unexpected turn in the evening's program. David's expression revealed his own discomfort with being positioned as the successful child whose achievements required diminishment of his sister's accomplishments. His medical school classmates appeared confused by the family dynamics they were witnessing. Having attended the celebration expecting traditional expressions of pride and support rather than public criticism of family members, my immediate response involved maintaining composure despite the public humiliation, while preparing for the revelation that would transform the evening's trajectory in ways my father could never have anticipated. The training in donor relationship, management, and public speaking that had developed through my museum career provided necessary skills for navigating this moment with dignity and strategic thinking. The awkward silence continued for several seconds as guests waited to understand how the evening's program would proceed following my father's inappropriate remarks. Dr. Morrison observed the situation with professional objectivity while preparing. To implement the announcement strategy, we had carefully coordinated to address exactly this type of family dynamic. What happened next would forever change our family's understanding of success, achievement, and the value of pursuing meaningful work regardless of traditional status expectations or social recognition. The dramatic revelation about my philanthropic activities and financial accomplishments would provide definitive evidence that alternative career paths could generate both personal fulfillment and substantial social contribution when pursued with dedication and strategic thinking. The graduation celebration that my father had envisioned as David's moment of triumph would become the setting for a profound shift in family narratives about professional achievement and the definition of success within our immigrant families' American dream aspirations. The public humiliation that was intended to diminish my accomplishments would instead create the perfect context for demonstrating the true scope of success that my cultural profession work had generated through years of dedicated relationship building, strategic investment, and commitment to meaningful social impact. The uncomfortable silence that followed my father's public denunciation stretched across the ballroom like a physical presence, creating an atmosphere of collective discomfort that permeated every corner of the elegant venue. 150 guests sat frozen in their seats, champagne glasses suspended halfway to their lips, uncertain how to respond to the shocking breach of social protocol they had just witnessed. The crystal chandeliers continued to cast their warm glow over tables where conversations had ceased entirely, replaced by the awkward tension that accompanies unexpected family conflict in formal social settings. Dr. Morrison observed the situation with the practiced composure of an academic administrator who had navigated countless delicate social situations throughout his distinguished career at Harvard University. His positioning near the head table provided optimal vantage point for implementing the announcement strategy we had carefully coordinated, while his official status as museum director lent institutional credibility to the revelation that would soon transform the evening's trajectory in ways no one present could have anticipated. The moment for intervention arrived as my father prepared to conclude his remarks and transition the program toward dessert service and dancing. Dr. Morrison approached the microphone with the confident bearing of someone accustomed to addressing distinguished audiences and managing complex institutional relationships. His movement created subtle but noticeable interest among guests who recognized his academic authority while remaining unaware of his connection to the dramatic revelation about to unfold. "Excuse me, Dr. Rodriguez," Dr. Morrison announced with the diplomatic professionalism that characterized his leadership of one of Harvard's most prestigious cultural institutions. "I hope you will permit me to add a few words to this evening's celebration. As director of the Peabody Museum of Archaeology and Ethnology at Harvard University, I have had the privilege of working closely with your daughter Elena, and I believe the assembled guests would be interested to learn about her remarkable contributions to our institution and the broader field of cultural preservation." The introduction created immediate shift in the ballroom's atmosphere as guests registered the significance of Dr. Morrison's academic credentials and institutional affiliation. Harvard University commanded universal respect among the assembled crowd, particularly within my father's medical and professional circles where academic prestige held enormous cultural currency. The prospect of learning about Harvard-level recognition for work they had dismissed as peripheral hobby activity generated confusion and anticipation among family members and guests. My father's expression reflected bewilderment and growing concern as he processed the implications of a Harvard Museum director's presence at David's graduation celebration. His assumption that cultural institutions represented marginal academic enterprises was suddenly challenged by encountering senior leadership from one of America's most prestigious universities expressing professional interest in my achievements and contributions. Dr. Morrison continued with remarks that systematically established my professional credentials and accomplishments within the context of Harvard's institutional standards and academic excellence. His presentation employed the authoritative tone and comprehensive scope that characterized formal academic recognition, creating dramatic contrast with my father's dismissive characterization of my career as insignificant hobby activity. Elena Rodriguez has distinguished herself as one of the most accomplished development professionals in American cultural institutions, Dr. Morrison announced to the increasingly attentive audience. Her expertise in Latino cultural preservation and philanthropic relationship building has generated transformative impact on our museum's capacity to serve diverse communities while advancing scholarly research on pre-Columbian civilizations and contemporary Latino cultural heritage. The academic language and institutional context provided by Dr. Morrison's remarks began to reshape guest perceptions about the nature and significance of my professional work. Extended family members who had politely inquired about my museum, activities with limited genuine interest now focused complete attention on learning about achievements they had never understood or appreciated. Medical professionals who had assumed cultural work lacked serious intellectual content found themselves confronting evidence of Harvard-level recognition for expertise they had dismissed. David's medical school classmates observed the unfolding revelation with growing fascination as they witnessed family dynamics becoming increasingly complex through academic validation that contradicted established narratives about professional achievement and career success. Their presence as outside observers provided objective perspective on the dramatic shift occurring within our family's understanding of success and recognition. Dr. Morrison's presentation continued with specific details about my fundraising, accomplishments and their impact on museum programming and scholarly research. The quantitative achievements and institutional outcomes he described created concrete evidence of professional success that transcended subjective family opinions about career value and social contribution. Under Elena's leadership, our development activities have secured over $15 million in philanthropic support for Latino cultural programming and archaeological research. Dr. Morrison continued with obvious pride in his colleagues' achievements. Her strategic vision and relationship-building capabilities have positioned our institution as the leading center for pre-Columbian studies and Latino cultural preservation in American higher education. The financial figures mentioned by Dr. Morrison generated immediate impact among guests who understood the sophisticated professional skills required to secure such substantial philanthropic commitments. Business owners and medical professionals who had achieved financial success through their own careers recognized that generating $15 million in fundraising represented expertise and accomplishment that demanded serious professional respect. My father's expression evolved from confusion through recognition toward something approaching shock as he processed the implications of Dr. Morrison's remarks about my professional achievements and their financial scale. His dismissive attitude toward museum work was being systematically dismantled by authoritative information from Harvard University leadership about the sophisticated nature of cultural institution development and its substantial financial impact. The revelation continued as Dr. Morrison transitioned toward the announcement that would provide definitive evidence of the financial success that my supposedly impractical career choices had generated through strategic investment and wealth building activities. The timing of this disclosure had been carefully coordinated to maximize dramatic impact while providing institutional context for understanding the significance of philanthropic commitment at Harvard University levels. This evening provides an appropriate opportunity to announce a transformative philanthropic commitment that will advance our institution's mission while honoring Elena's dedication to Latino cultural preservation, Dr. Morrison declared with the formal authority appropriate for major institutional announcements. Elena Rodriguez has established a $5 million endowment fund that will support Latino archaeological research, graduate student fellowships, and community education programming in perpetuity. The financial magnitude of the endowment announcement created immediate and profound impact throughout the ballroom. Guests who had spent the evening celebrating David's medical school graduation suddenly confronted evidence that the family member dismissed as a disappointment had accumulated sufficient wealth to make philanthropic commitments that exceeded the lifetime earnings of most successful professionals. Extended family members who had traveled specifically to celebrate educational achievement found themselves witnessing recognition of financial and philanthropic accomplishment that challenged every assumption they had held about career success and professional value. The contrast between my father's public dismissal of my achievements and the reality of my financial capacity created cognitive dissonance that would require fundamental reassessment of family narratives about success and failure. Medical professionals, who had assumed cultural careers provided limited financial compensation, now encountered evidence of wealth accumulation that exceeded their own professional achievements. The revelation forced recognition that alternative career paths could generate both meaningful social impact and substantial financial success when pursued with strategic thinking and dedication to excellence. Dr. Morrison continued his remarks with additional details about the endowment's scope and its lasting impact on Harvard's capacity to advance Latino cultural research and community engagement. The institutional context he provided emphasized the scholarly significance of the commitment, while highlighting the sophisticated understanding of academic priorities that had informed my philanthropic strategy. The Elena Rodriguez Fund for Latino Archaeological Research and Cultural Preservation represents one of the most significant philanthropic commitments in our museum's distinguished history, Dr. Morrison explained to the transfixed audience. This endowment will enable groundbreaking research expeditions, support graduate students pursuing advanced degrees in archaeology and anthropology, and create educational programming that makes Latino cultural heritage accessible to broader audiences. The academic framework provided by Dr. Morrison's presentation transformed guest understanding of both my professional expertise and the social impact that cultural preservation work could generate. Family members who had politely tolerated discussions of my museum activities now recognize that such work contributed to scholarly research and community education at levels they had never comprehended or appreciated. The endowment announcement continued with specific details about its governance structure and spending priorities that demonstrated sophisticated understanding of academic fundraising and institutional stewardship. Dr. Morrison's explanation revealed the comprehensive planning and strategic thinking that had informed my philanthropic decision while emphasizing the lasting impact such commitment would create for future generations of students and researchers. Elena's vision for this endowment reflects deep understanding of academic priorities and community needs. Dr. Morrison continued with obvious respect for my strategic thinking and institutional knowledge. The fund's structure ensures sustainable support for research activities while creating opportunities for scholars and students who might otherwise lack access to advanced archaeological training and cultural preservation resources. My father's stunned silence reflected his struggle to process information that contradicted fundamental assumptions about my career choices and their financial implications. His public dismissal of my achievements as disappointing failures was being systematically disproven by Harvard University leadership, who characterized my work as distinguished professional accomplishment, deserving institutional recognition and respect. The broader guest response revealed similar cognitive adjustment, as people who had attended the celebration expecting traditional expressions of family pride encountered dramatic revelation about financial success and philanthropic capacity that none of them had anticipated. Conversations that had begun with polite inquiries about my museum work now carried undertones of genuine curiosity and newfound respect for achievements they had previously minimized. Dr. Morrison's presentation approached its conclusion with remarks that positioned my philanthropic commitment within the broader context of Harvard's institutional mission and academic excellence. His characterization of the endowment as transformative for Latino cultural research provided definitive validation for career choices that my family had consistently criticized as impractical and socially insignificant. Harvard University is privileged to partner with Elena Rodriguez in advancing Latino cultural preservation and archaeological research, Dr. Morrison announced with the formal dignity appropriate for major institutional recognition. Her professional expertise, philanthropic vision, and commitment to scholarly excellence exemplify the values that define our academic community and its service to society. The institutional endorsement from Harvard University leadership provided validation that transcended family opinions and social assumptions about career value and professional achievement. Dr. Morrison's remarks established my work within the context of academic excellence and scholarly contribution that commanded universal respect among educated professionals and community leaders. As Dr. Morrison concluded his presentation and returned the microphone to my father, the ballroom atmosphere had been fundamentally transformed from celebration of traditional medical achievement to recognition of alternative professional success that challenged conventional assumptions about career value and financial accomplishment. The revelation about my philanthropic capacity had created new understanding of how success could be measured and what types of work generated meaningful social contribution. The silence that followed Dr. Morrison's remarks differed qualitatively from the uncomfortable tension that had characterized the ballroom following my father's dismissive comments. This silence reflected collective processing of information that required reassessment of established beliefs about professional achievement and family success narratives. My father approached the microphone with obvious uncertainty about how to respond to revelations that had undermined his public criticism of my career choices, while providing dramatic evidence of financial and philanthropic success that exceeded anything he had accomplished through his medical practice. His preparation for delivering closing remarks about family achievement had been rendered inadequate by information that transformed the evening's significance beyond his original intentions. Extended family members exchanged glances that reflected their recognition of the fundamental shift in family dynamics that had occurred through Dr. Morrison's announcement. Relatives who had traveled to celebrate David's medical graduation found themselves witnessing validation of achievements they had never understood while questioning assumptions they had held about professional value and career success. David's own reaction revealed his surprise at learning about philanthropic activities and financial capacity that I had never discussed with family members. His medical school classmates observed family relationships becoming more complex through revelations that challenged their understanding of professional achievement and sibling dynamics within academic families. The dramatic reversal of fortune created by Dr. Morrison's announcement provided definitive validation for years of pursuing meaningful work, despite family criticism and social assumptions about career practicality. The endowment revelation demonstrated that following authentic professional interests could generate both personal fulfillment and substantial financial success when pursued with strategic thinking and dedication to excellence. The evening that had begun with celebration of traditional professional achievement had been transformed into recognition of alternative career success that provided new understanding of how cultural preservation work could generate both scholarly impact and financial accomplishment. The graduation party that my father had envisioned as David's moment of triumph had become the setting for revelation about the true scope of success that committed professional engagement could create when aligned with personal values and strategic investment thinking. The foundation had been established for fundamental reassessment of family relationships and professional values that would extend far beyond the immediate impact of the endowment announcement. The dramatic validation of my career choices would require ongoing adjustment of family dynamics, while providing evidence that success could be achieved through multiple pathways when pursued with dedication and strategic thinking about both professional development and financial management. The immediate aftermath of Dr. Morrison's announcement created a profound transformation in the ballroom's social dynamics that extended far beyond mere surprise or curiosity. The revelation had fundamentally altered the evening's narrative from a celebration of traditional medical achievement to recognition of philanthropic accomplishment that challenged every assumption the assembled guests had held about professional success and family hierarchy within our Latino community. My father stood at the microphone in visible confusion, his prepared closing remarks rendered completely inadequate by information that contradicted the family narrative he had spent the evening constructing for the assembled guests. His public dismissal of my achievements as disappointing failures now appeared not merely inappropriate, but factually incorrect in ways that undermined his credibility as both a family patriarch and community leader who understood professional accomplishment. The stunned silence that had initially greeted Dr. Morrison's announcement gradually gave way to whispered conversations as guests processed the implications of what they had witnessed. Extended family members who had traveled specifically to celebrate David's medical graduation found themselves discussing philanthropic commitments and cultural preservation work with vocabulary and concepts they had never before associated with our family's professional achievements. Dr. Patricia Vega, the cardiologist who had earlier questioned the financial viability of my museum career, approached my table with obvious embarrassment about her previous dismissive comments. Her medical training had taught her to reassess diagnoses when presented with contradictory evidence, and the endowment revelation required similar intellectual honesty about assumptions she had made regarding cultural professions and their capacity for generating substantial financial success. Elena, I owe you an apology for my earlier comments about museum work and its financial limitations, Dr. Vega admitted with the professional dignity that had characterized her medical career. Your philanthropic commitment demonstrates sophisticated wealth management and strategic thinking that commands serious respect. I clearly misunderstood the nature and scope of your professional accomplishments. Her acknowledgement represented broader recognition among the medical professionals present that their assumptions about cultural careers had been fundamentally flawed. The evidence of my financial success through museum development work forced reassessment of professional hierarchies and career value systems that had shaped their previous understanding of meaningful work and social contribution. Similar conversations occurred throughout the ballroom as guests struggled to reconcile their previous perceptions of my career status with evidence of philanthropic capacity that exceeded the financial accomplishments of most successful professionals. Business owners who had achieved substantial wealth through entrepreneurial ventures recognized that accumulating $5 million for charitable giving required sophisticated investment strategies and business acumen that contradicted stereotypes about cultural profession practitioners. My cousin Maria, the attorney who had attempted to redirect earlier conversations about my professional achievements, approached with questions that reflected genuine curiosity about museum development work and its relationship to wealth-building activities. Her legal background provided framework for understanding complex financial transactions, and she recognized that major philanthropic commitments required sophisticated planning and substantial liquid assets. Elena, I had no idea that museum development involved such substantial financial management and strategic thinking, Maria confessed, as we found a quiet corner for private conversation. Your endowment represents more money than most lawyers accumulate over entire careers. How did cultural preservation work provide opportunities for such significant wealth building? Her question reflected broader curiosity among family members about the professional pathways and investment strategies that had enabled my financial success, despite choosing a career field that appeared to offer limited economic advancement opportunities. The revelation had created intense interest in understanding how alternative professional paths could generate substantial wealth when pursued with strategic thinking and business acumen. David approached our conversation with obvious pride in my achievements combined with embarrassment about our father's public criticism of my career choices. His medical education had taught him to value diverse forms of professional contribution, and the endowment revelation provided definitive evidence that my work generated meaningful social impact while achieving financial success that exceeded traditional professional expectations. Elena, I am proud of what you have accomplished and ashamed of how Dad characterized your achievements tonight, David told me with genuine emotion. Your philanthropic commitment will advance research and education in ways that create lasting impact on Latino communities. That represents exactly the type of meaningful professional contribution that should earn family recognition and respect. His support provided validation from within our immediate family structure, while demonstrating that his medical education had expanded his understanding of professional value beyond narrow definitions of career success. The conversation suggested potential for improved family relationships based on mutual respect for different forms of meaningful work, rather than competitive comparison of professional achievements. Meanwhile, my father remained near the head table in conversation with several of his medical colleagues who were clearly questioning his characterization of my career as disappointing failure. Dr. Morrison's presentation had provided authoritative information about my professional accomplishments that contradicted the dismissive narrative my father had constructed about my work and its value to society. The medical professionals who comprised my father's primary social and professional network recognized that Harvard University institutional endorsement represented validation that transcended personal family opinions about career choices. Their respect for academic excellence and scholarly achievement forced acknowledgement that my work had earned recognition from one of America's most prestigious educational institutions. Dr. Roberto Fernandez, an orthopedic surgeon who had worked with my father for over 15 years, initiated a conversation that would prove particularly significant in challenging my father's perspective on professional achievement and family success. His own children had pursued careers in education and social work, providing personal experience with alternative professional paths that generated meaningful social contribution despite limited financial compensation. Miguel, your daughter, has achieved something remarkable that reflects extraordinary professional competence and strategic thinking, Dr. Fernandez observed with obvious respect for the endowment announcement. Accumulating $5 million for philanthropic giving requires business skills and investment expertise that rival any profession. You should feel enormous pride in her accomplishments rather than disappointment in her career choices. The conversation represented direct challenge to my father's public criticism from within his own professional peer group. Dr. Fernandez's perspective carried particular weight because his medical credentials and longtime friendship provided credibility for assessing professional achievement and family success within Latino immigrant community contexts. Additional medical colleagues joined the conversation, expressing similar recognition of my philanthropic commitment's significance and questioning my father's dismissive attitude toward cultural preservation work. Their collective response forced my father to confront the reality that his professional peers recognized my achievements as substantial accomplishments deserving respect and admiration rather than disappointment or criticism. The broader guest response continued to evolve as people processed the dramatic shift in understanding about family dynamics and professional achievement that Dr. Morrison's announcement had created. Extended family members who had politely inquired about my museum activities with limited genuine interest now recognized that such work had generated financial success and philanthropic capacity that exceeded their own professional accomplishments. My Aunt Isabel, who had consistently supported traditional career expectations for family members, approached with questions that reflected fundamental reassessment of her beliefs about professional value and career success. Her own experience as a public school teacher had taught her about the challenges of meaningful work within resource-constrained institutions, and she recognized the transformative impact that major philanthropic commitments could create for educational and cultural programming. Elena, your endowment will provide opportunities for students and researchers that would never exist without such generous support, Aunt Isabel acknowledged with obvious emotion. I have seen how funding limitations restrict educational programming, and I understand the profound impact that your gift will create for advancing Latino cultural preservation and archaeological research. Her recognition provided validation from extended family members who had previously accepted my father's characterization of my work as peripheral to serious professional achievement. The conversation suggested potential for broader family relationship improvement based on genuine understanding of my career accomplishments and their social significance. The evening's program had been completely transformed from its original focus on David's medical graduation to recognition of philanthropic achievement that challenged conventional assumptions about professional success and family hierarchy. Dr. Morrison's announcement had created new narrative framework for understanding how different types of meaningful work could generate both personal fulfillment and substantial social contribution. As dessert service commenced and the formal program concluded, conversations throughout the ballroom continued to focus on the endowment revelation and its implications for understanding career success and professional achievement. The dramatic reversal of fortune had provided definitive evidence that following authentic professional interests could generate both financial success and meaningful social impact when pursued with strategic thinking and dedication to excellence. My father eventually approached our family table with obvious difficulty in processing the evening's revelations and their implications for his understanding of my career choices and professional achievements. His public criticism had been undermined by authoritative information from Harvard University leadership that characterized my work as distinguished professional accomplishment, deserving institutional recognition and respect. Elena, I did not understand the nature of your work or its financial implications, my father admitted with obvious discomfort about acknowledging his previous dismissive attitude. Dr. Morrison's presentation revealed professional accomplishments that I had never recognized or appreciated. Your philanthropic commitment represents success that any parent should celebrate rather than criticize. His acknowledgement provided the foundation for potential relationship repair, while demonstrating the profound impact that external validation could create for family dynamics that had been shaped by limited understanding of alternative professional pathways. The conversation suggested possibility for improved family relationships, based on mutual respect rather than hierarchical comparison of career achievements. The endowment revelation had also created opportunities for enhanced relationship with David based on shared commitment to meaningful professional work rather than competitive comparison of career paths. His medical education focus on patient care and community health aligned with my cultural preservation work in ways that could strengthen sibling relationships through recognition of common values and complementary social contributions. Extended family members continued to express curiosity about museum development work and its relationship to wealth-building activities that had enabled major philanthropic giving. Their questions reflected genuine interest in understanding professional pathways that combined meaningful social impact with financial success through strategic career development and investment activities. The evening's transformation from celebration of traditional professional achievement to recognition of alternative career success had provided new framework for family discussions about professional value and career choice considerations. The dramatic validation of my career path would influence future family members who might consider cultural preservation, education, or other service-oriented professions that appeared to offer limited financial advancement opportunities. Dr. Morrison's departure from the reception involved brief conversations with family members who expressed gratitude for his presentation and curiosity about future collaboration opportunities between our family and Harvard University's cultural preservation initiatives. His institutional representation had provided credibility for recognizing professional achievements that family members had previously minimized or dismissed. The evening concluded with fundamentally altered family dynamics and social relationships that reflected new understanding of professional success and philanthropic accomplishment. The graduation celebration that had begun with traditional expressions of medical achievement had been transformed into recognition of alternative career success that challenged conventional assumptions about professional value and social contribution. The drive home to Cambridge provided opportunity for reflection on the evening's events and their implications for future family relationships and professional development. The dramatic vindication of my career choices had been achieved through strategic timing and institutional validation that provided definitive evidence of financial success and philanthropic capacity that exceeded traditional professional expectations. The endowment revelation had created permanent change in family narratives about success and achievement, while providing foundation for improved relationships based on mutual respect rather than hierarchical comparison of career accomplishments. The transformation suggested possibilities for ongoing family support for diverse professional pathways and recognition of alternative forms of meaningful work and social contribution. The motivational impact of the evening's events extended beyond personal vindication to demonstrate broader principles about pursuing authentic professional interests despite social pressure to choose conventional career paths. The story provided evidence that following personal values and strategic thinking about career development could generate both financial success and meaningful social impact when sustained over time with dedication and professional excellence. The graduation party that my father had envisioned as celebration of traditional professional achievement had become demonstration of how alternative career success could exceed conventional expectations while creating lasting impact through philanthropic engagement and cultural preservation work. The evening's transformation provided inspiration for anyone considering professional paths that prioritize personal fulfillment and social contribution over traditional status markers and social recognition. The weeks following David's graduation, celebration brought profound changes to our family dynamics that extended far beyond the immediate shock of the endowment revelation. The transformation encompassed not only personal relationships within our immediate family structure, but also broader recognition within our extended Latino community about the diverse pathways through which professional success and meaningful social contribution could be achieved. My return to Cambridge and resumption of responsibilities at the Peabody Museum occurred within a context of heightened visibility and recognition that reflected the institutional significance of the endowment commitment. Dr. Morrison scheduled meetings with senior Harvard administrators to discuss the fund's implementation strategy and its alignment with university priorities for Latino cultural research and community engagement programming. The administrative meetings revealed the comprehensive scope of planning required to establish and manage a major endowment fund within Harvard University's institutional framework. Legal documentation, investment management protocols, and governance structures all demanded sophisticated understanding of academic fundraising and fiduciary responsibility that reflected the professional expertise I had developed through years of museum development work. Harvard's Vice President for Development, Dr. Catherine Walsh, expressed particular interest in the strategic thinking that had informed my philanthropic decision and its potential implications for expanding Latino donor engagement across university initiatives. Her recognition of the endowment's significance within Harvard's broader fundraising portfolio provided institutional validation that transcended family opinions about career value and professional achievement. Your commitment represents exactly the type of transformative philanthropy that enables Harvard to advance research and education in areas that might otherwise lack adequate funding support, Dr. Walsh observed during our initial planning meeting. The strategic focus on Latino cultural preservation and archaeological research addresses critical gaps in academic programming while creating opportunities for scholars and students who have been historically underrepresented in these fields. The institutional framework provided by Harvard's Development Office emphasized the sophisticated planning and financial analysis that informed successful major gift strategies. Dr. Walsh's presentation of endowment management protocols revealed the complex investment and spending policies that would govern fund utilization while ensuring sustainable support for programming initiatives over multiple decades. The endowment implementation process also required coordination with faculty members who would benefit from enhanced research funding and student support. Dr. Maria Santos, professor of archaeology and director of Latino Studies, expressed enthusiasm about the expanded opportunities for field research and graduate student training that the fund would enable through comprehensive resource allocation and program development. This endowment will transform our capacity to conduct archaeological research on pre-Columbian civilizations while training the next generation of Latino scholars in cultural preservation methodologies, Dr. Santos explained during our program planning discussions. The funding will support field expeditions, laboratory analysis, and community education initiatives that connect academic research with broader Latino cultural awareness, and heritage preservation. Her academic perspective provided concrete understanding of the educational and research impact that philanthropic investment could generate within university settings. The collaboration between development professionals and faculty researchers demonstrated the sophisticated coordination required to translate philanthropic vision into effective programming that achieved both scholarly excellence and community benefit. Meanwhile, family relationships continued to evolve as the implications of the endowment revelation influenced ongoing conversations about professional success and career choice considerations. My father initiated phone conversations that reflected genuine effort to understand my work and its significance within academic and cultural preservation contexts. These conversations represented fundamental departure from previous family interactions that had focused primarily on his disappointment in my career choices and persistent suggestions that I pursue more conventional professional pathways. His questions about museum development work, philanthropic strategy, and investment activities demonstrated sincere interest in comprehending professional accomplishments he had previously dismissed or minimized. Elena, I realize that I never understood the complexity and scope of your work at the museum, my father acknowledged during one of our weekly phone conversations. Dr. Morrison's presentation revealed professional responsibilities and financial expertise that I had completely failed to recognize. Your success challenges assumptions I held about cultural careers and their capacity for generating meaningful achievement. His admission provided foundation for relationship repair while highlighting the importance of external validation in transforming family perceptions about alternative career pathways. The Harvard institutional endorsement had created credibility that transcended personal family opinions and forced recognition of professional accomplishments that had been invisible within our family's narrow definitions of success. The conversations also revealed my father's growing appreciation for the social impact that cultural preservation work could generate through educational programming and community engagement initiatives. His medical background had sensitized him to the importance of serving underserved populations, and he began to recognize parallels between healthcare access advocacy and cultural programming that made Latino heritage accessible to broader audiences. David's response to the endowment revelation reflected similar evolution in his understanding of professional value and family achievement. His medical school experience had exposed him to diverse forms of scholarly research and community service that expanded his appreciation for alternative pathways to meaningful social contribution. His residency placement in emergency medicine at Massachusetts General Hospital provided opportunities for us to maintain regular contact while developing adult-sibling relationships based on mutual professional respect rather than competitive comparison of career achievements. Our conversations revealed shared commitment to serving Latino communities through different but complementary professional pathways. Your work preserving Latino cultural heritage and my medical training both contribute to community well-being in ways that complement each other, David observed during one of our dinner meetings in Boston. Cultural preservation strengthens community identity and pride, while healthcare ensures physical well-being and access to medical treatment. Both forms of professional service address different but equally important community needs. His perspective demonstrated sophisticated understanding of how diverse professional contributions could strengthen Latino communities through comprehensive support that addressed cultural, educational, and health-related needs. The recognition suggested potential for ongoing collaboration between our professional networks and shared advocacy for Latino community advancement. Extended family responses to the endowment revelation continued to generate conversations about career choice considerations and professional development strategies that reflected new understanding of alternative pathways to financial success and social contribution. Younger family members, particularly those approaching college graduation and career decision points, expressed curiosity about museum development work and cultural preservation professions. My cousin Rebecca, completing her senior year at Boston College with a major in international studies, requested informational interviews about development careers and their relationship to cultural programming and community engagement. Her questions reflected genuine interest in professional pathways that combined social impact with financial sustainability through strategic career development and relationship building. Your success demonstrates that meaningful work and financial achievement are not mutually exclusive goals, Rebecca observed during our coffee meeting near her campus. I had assumed that choosing careers focused on social impact required accepting limited financial compensation and professional advancement opportunities. Your example suggests that strategic thinking about career development can generate both personal fulfillment and substantial financial success. Her perspective highlighted broader generational interest in professional pathways that prioritized purpose and social contribution while maintaining financial viability and advancement potential. The endowment revelation had provided evidence that alternative career choices could achieve comprehensive success when pursued with strategic thinking and dedication to professional excellence. The community response within our broader Latino professional network reflected similar reassessment of assumptions about cultural careers and their capacity for generating meaningful achievement. Business owners, medical professionals, and attorneys who comprised my father's social circle expressed newfound respect for museum development work and curiosity about philanthropic strategies that enabled major charitable giving. Dr. Roberto Fernandez, the orthopedic surgeon who had challenged my father's dismissive attitude during the graduation celebration, initiated conversations about potential collaboration between medical professionals and cultural institutions to address Latino community health and wellness through comprehensive programming that integrated healthcare education with cultural preservation initiatives. Your museum work and our medical practices both serve Latino communities in ways that could be strengthened through coordinated programming, Dr. Fernandez suggested during a family gathering several weeks after David's